vulnerability monitoring at OCI level. So without further ado, let's begin. Go to Developer Service. I click on Integration. And we're going to look at that OIC instance that I was using in the first video here. So from an OCI console perspective, here we have this OIC instance. Now, the first thing that's very interesting here is the service metrics that are available. Now, these are telling us received messages, how many messages were received by OIC in this particular time period here. Now, when we talk about received messages, these are messages, for example, API invokes to OIC, or the response is coming back to OIC after invokes from OIC. So these are the received messages. We see here successful messages, failed messages, inbound request processing time, how long did it take to process those requests, outbound request invocation processing time. So this is very interesting. For example, if you have a integration that uses the Fusion ERP adapter, you could check on its execution time or invocation time here. Out of the box, of course, this is looking at all outbound requests, but very easily we can go into what we know as what's called here Metrics Explorer, and we can change that query very easily to zone in on particular adapters. So this is the high level response over all adapters, but we can of course zoom in for specific adapters that you think could be problematic or whatever. Then we have the inbound requests, outbound requests, consumed messages. Now, consumed messages are the messages consumed from a billing perspective. So, for example, you know that with OIC, a message for us is a request, an incoming request with a payload up to 50 KB. So if I have a large incoming payload, for example, 90 KB, from a technical perspective, it would be one message. From a consumed messages, i.e. billing perspective, it would be two messages. And here we see how many message packs we have configured. As you can see, the default here is one. I've one message pack configured for this instance. Now, just going back in here regarding the outbound request invocation time, I'll just show you the way you can actually say view this query in Metrics Explorer. So as I say, now you can come in here, you can see here, we can go in and we can say show the data in the edit table here. So that's not very, very interesting for us maybe, but we can go in and we can edit the query. And we look at edit the query, we can see here, okay, what can we actually do here? We can specify or change the time interval. We can also look at the different stats, like mean, sum, count, min, max, the various P90s, 95, 99, etc. We can also specify down here, if you see, the resource ID is actually the OIC instance. We can also say the adapter identifier. This is what I was saying, we have multiple adapters. So you could say, okay, I'm really only interested in the ones that are doing co-located ICS, which is local invokes, for example. I could click on that. Or the database, e-business suite, FTP, etc., etc. So you see all of these guys are available here. I can go in here and maybe update the timeline on this and say the quick selects the last 30 days. And we should hopefully see some data there for update the chart. And of course, we can here aggregate message streams if we want. And then, of course, we can add the various dimensions here. You can see let's go in for the adapter. Let's take the NetSuite adapter there. I can go even further. I can say, I'm only interested in the NetSuite adapter usage by a particular integration. And then I can select that particular integration. And here we have an integration that syncs accounts from NetSuite or from Salesforce to NetSuite. So that might be an interesting one for us there. You can see the other dimensions that are information here, the status. You know, okay, I'm only interested in the response times of particular invokes from this integration to NetSuite with the following response or whatever. So this is very, very interesting what we have here. And as you can see here, we've got something else called create alarm. Now, what are alarms? Alarms are very, very useful. And let's go over here and we go to the service metrics and we can actually see the alarm definitions here. So alarms can be created here at OCI level based on the service metrics coming from OIC. So just think of two salient pots of information coming from OIC to OCI, the service metrics, and the activity stream log data. So with the service metrics, for example, I've one here, high consumption. So I'm checking here if the build message count is above a certain level for a certain time frame, then send me an email. So you can see exactly what I'm doing here. I'm sending you this high consumption and particular integration. If the build message count within a certain number of minutes is greater than 10, send a message to this billing topic. And from that billing topic, you will see here, that's just going to result in an email being sent to the OIC administrator. You can see this here, and there's the protocol email, and that email is going to be sent to myself. Now back to our OIC instance here in the OCI console. I talked about enabling the OIC logs being pushed to OCI logging. This is done very simply by enabling that. And as you can see here, I have created a certain log group and a name within that log group. So the activity stream data or a subset of that data is going to be sent to this log group within OCI logging, and within that log group to this particular log here. Now, if I click on this, I actually come here to this, this activity stream here. And as you can see here, we can see like the past hour. We'll see, and here are the different jobs that I've actually run, etc., etc. And I have all of that salient information here, and of course I can drill down into these logs here. Now, one thing to note here, the data that you see here is related to the activity stream data, but is not the same as the activity stream data. So it's not a one-to-one set of activity stream data that you're getting pushed to OCI logging, but it does contain the salient information that you could need, like the action name, the action type, the executed time, which is the time that this particular action within this OIC integration was executed. So if we go back up here now again to logging, let's go in this way. So here's logging. And as you can go in here, you see here, we can come in at this very, very top level and say, which logs do we want to look at? So I've got many compartments here. I'm sure you don't have that many. And I can go in here and I say, I just want this log group here. And within that log group, I only want a particular thing here, which is this guy here. And I can do continue. And then I can say, okay, I want the data for the past hour. You see the data for the past hour here. Now, what's interesting, let's go back in here and let's look at observability and go in here to the actual instance flows. We can see here the instance ID. I'm going to copy this instance right there. Let's go to this guy. Let's copy that instance ID. Go back in here. Let's go back into here. And now we can put in filters. Now I could actually just go and just press that and see what happens. And I get all of the logs for this particular instance. Yeah. Okay. So very, very interesting there. But what I can also do, there are certain fields I can search by. Say I'm only interested in a certain action within that. You know, I'm only interested in the invoke action to NetSuite or whatever, or a specific action type. Or, you know, there I can actually specify the instance ID as well. Like what I did there was just a global search, but I could also go in and say, just give me that data, you know, data instance ID equal to, and I do Control V, and I have that, and I can get rid of that. And of course, it's actually going to show me the same data here. So with that, of course, I can go in, look at the data, review it, etc., etc. So that is OCI logging We've looked here at the alarms as well. And if I just go back up to the top level here with my logging, just one moment, please. As I say, here it is under observability and management. Click here on logging. You have access to all of that there. The final piece of the puzzle I wanted to show you now is the OCI dashboards, which are available at this level here. Now, it's very, very easy to create these dashboards. The dashboards that can be created based on the service metrics or the logs I showed you there in OCI logging. As you can see here, I have created some ones here showing the number of messages received. So you can say which are my most used integrations, which one have the most successful messages, where are the failed messages happening, etc., etc. Here, I'm giving a view of the logs. And as you can see, clicking here will bring me back to that log search that I showed you earlier. So you can dive into particular instances of particular integrations, etc. And then we say, here's a breakdown by action type, which mightn't be too interesting, but just showing you what is available here. So you really can create very intricate or complex metrics diagrams based on the logs and the metrics available to you here. For example, here I'm showing the error breakdown, and here I'm saying how many requests I might have to ADW. At the moment, I don't have any because of this. In the past 7 days, I haven't that. So very, very easy to add widgets to the dashboard. For example, you click here, and you can see, okay, for example, let's take some metrics. And we come down here. We can configure that chart. And then we're back into this here, say, test chart. And you can put in some more information there. And you're saying here, okay, which region am I in? Which metric space? So I'm looking here, of course, for integration, OCI integration. And then I'm down here, which metrics. So these are all of the metrics you've already met. So you can click whichever one of them you want. For example, build message count. And I'm interested in the sum. And I say the dimension key. I say I'm looking for a particular integration. And I'll take some integration there, for example, this fell in here, and I can actually configure that guy there then. So I can see the build message count for this particular integration over a period of time and how that is increased. So again, these dashboards are allowing you very easily at this top level within the OCI console to have insight into what's going on within your OIC environments. Thank you. Hello, welcome to this short video on OCI observability and monitoring. This time we'll be focusing on OCI logging analytics and the value add that it brings to the game. So the previous video we looked at OCI logging and what the insight it gives us into our OIC instances. Now, via a service connector, I can send the data from OCI logging that I've received from OIC onto OCI logging analytics. So it's very, very simple to create what's known as a service connector. You're saying the source, which is the logging, and then you specify which log files you want to send there. And then you say, what's the target? So in my case, the target here is logging analytics. So I could put in some tasks as, further filtering, but I'm just saying here, just send all of the logs that you get from OIC onto logging analytics. So what does logging analytics give me? Well, the logging analytics team have released 3 OIC related dashboards, which are ready for you to use. So out of the box dashboard, giving you a view of your OIC instances. Now, this is the key here, is the word instances, because we're talking here about fleet management. As you can see here, I'm looking at 4 OIC environments here. And in the period that I'm looking at here, I've had 26 integrations, but you see 219,000 flows from those 26 integrations. You can see how many are in the error hospital, etc., etc. And because of my poor screen resolution here, or low screen resolution here, these are the ones in the error hospital. You can see which environment is where the most, where is the most work happening. And you see it's happening on this particular OIC instance. And as you see, the OIC instance here is identified by the OSID. You can see breakdown by integration ID. So you see here, which are my most used integrations, so to speak. Here, these are coming from the service metrics we met in an earlier video, number of inbound request processing time, etc., etc. Now, new widgets here for us are this, for example, this potential issues. So potential issues is something that logging analytics gives us. It's an intelligent parsing of the log files, checking for keywords such as errors, warnings, and so on, and also looking for outliers. Like events that have only happened once from a logging perspective. And these can be key in helping you isolate errors or isolate, as I say here, potential issues. Now, again, as in the other, like the service metrics dashboards we met, we can, of course, here drill down. So I can, for example, here drill down. Let's take this one here. And you can see, and here we're in the Logging Analytics Log Explorer. Now, the Log Explorer has its own syntax here. It's query language. Very, very easy to learn. Just check out the documentation for that. And of course, you can, change these, change the query. And then you could, of course, save the query as a new widget and include it in your existing dashboard or put it into a new dashboard. You can, of course, copy the query URL and work on it in a different editor or whatever. And you can see here, these are the fields that you can use to create your queries and so on. So very easy is just to drag and drop the fields here, and that'll automatically create the query for you. Or else you start off with the query and just add maybe a where clause to it or whatever. And then you can see here the different visualizations that are available for you here. The cluster analysis, the links and potential issues that we've already seen. So we've loads of different visualizations available to you here. And as I say, the query language is relatively simple. Check out the documentation for that. Now, I mentioned that we have 3 dashboards out of the box. Now, that was the first one there. Now, the dashboards are the health overview, the key metrics, and the time taken analysis. And as you can see here, I have created a copy of the health overview and just renamed it Fleet Management. So it's very easy to take these out of the box dashboards, duplicate them, and then edit the duplicate to suit your particular needs, which I did in this case. All I actually did was actually give it a new title. But as you've seen, I can go in, edit the widgets, edit the queries, etc., etc. Now let's look at the key metrics. So now the key metrics are, of course, based on the service metrics that we've met earlier. And as you can see here, they're appearing here for us. And what's very, very nice about this, of course, is we are doing kind of fleet management here. We are able to filter on the different resources. So I can filter on the 4 OIC environments that we have. You see this one here, this is a Gen 2 instance, and these are my 3 Gen 3 instances here. So I can filter on OCI environment. So I have the fleet view, and then I can drill down into a particular OIC instance, or else I can drill down into a particular integration. So the dashboards then change according to what I've actually filtered up here. So I think this is key for many customers who have multiple OIC instances and, who are missing that final piece in the jigsaw, from a monitoring perspective. OIC instance monitoring or observability is very comprehensive, but it is at the OIC instance level. Here we're getting fleet monitoring. So now we've met the key metrics as well. We can go back to the final dashboard here, and the final dashboard is the time taken analysis. So the time taken analysis giving us an overview of the time it has taken to execute particular integrations over a period of time. Now let's just wait for this to appear. And this is very, very useful as well, that you can see your peaks and your troughs, and you can see the difference in the execution times between those peaks and troughs. So here you can see, and the bubbles here, you can see the time taken. Sometimes it's just, 0 to 15 seconds, etc., etc. But the bigger the bubbles, of course, the larger the time consumed there. And this is very, very interesting for, especially if you've got integrations with stringent SLAs that they have to execute within a certain period of time from a business perspective. This gives you a head start in identifying any potential bottlenecks there. So again, these 3 dashboards are available to you out of the box with OCI Logging Analytics. It's very easy to get that log information from OCI Logging to Logging Analytics via the service connectors. So there's nothing stopping you adopting this great technology. Thank you very much.
Today, we are going to demo the Fusion Application Monitoring feature. With Oracle Integration 3, we have improved our integration with the Fusion applications by providing the dedicated menu item within the observability for the Fusion applications. What this enables is, this enables the self-service troubleshooting of event-related issues related to the Fusion application connections. So what it does is it is showing you all the Fusion application connections which you configured across the project on one place. And by going into the detail pane, you'll be able to see the events which have been fired, which have received, which have not been received, and troubleshoot all the issues. Now, before getting into detail, let's first look at one business scenario where customer might need this feature and how he might use this feature. So for that, let's go to the home page. Now in here, what I'm going to do is I am going to take one of the pre-built solutions. So we have 180 plus recipes and accelerators available for our customers out of the box, which you can find in the home page, and you can install any one of them. So I'm going to take one of these solutions. I've already picked one. We'll get there. And I will going to use how exactly for this solution I'm going to use the Fusion application observability improvement feature. So for that, I have already installed an accelerator. So here is an accelerator that I've already installed. What this accelerator does is it synchronizes the Fusion work order service orders information between the field service and Fusion service. So I've already configured the connection. I've already activated it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the Fusion application and then create a work order, and we'll see how exactly that shows up on the observability and the Fusion application front. Okay, so for that, let's go into the Fusion application. I'm going to click on the work orders. Okay, so here are the work orders which are created. Let's create a new work order. So I'm going to say create Oracle field service work order. Okay, let's file in the information. Okay, now that we have filled in the information, let's select the resource who will be working on this particular work order. So I'm going to select Benson Fred. I'm going to align him slot. Now let's click save and continue. Now what this is going to do is this is going to create a work order on the Fusion service. Now this work order will move from Fusion service to field service, and for this particular purpose, this pre-built solution is using the Fusion application event handling framework. What that basically does is that basically uses the eventing to communicate. So that's where we will go and see how exactly we can troubleshoot, or we can look at the event as they move from Fusion service and field service using our new feature. Okay, as you can see here, the field service has the order is submitted and it is yet to be notified to the field service, and that's where the event will be raised. So we are just waiting for this event to be raised. Here we go. Now we can see that event has been raised. Let's now go back to the Oracle integration. Now if I go into the observability, I can see that new event has been raised. Now this is all good, but let's now look at our new capability. So if I go into the observability and go into the Fusion application, here is a connection for my project for the pre-built solution that I've seen. So if I go in over here, I can see that the work order created event was actually delivered to the Oracle integration, and Oracle integration has delivered it back to the field service. So that was it. Now, in case there are some queues or retrials, all those things can also show up over here. So to mimic that scenario, let's do one thing. Let's go back to the projects, because it can happen. Maybe one of your endpoint is down. What you could do, what it may happen is that maybe your flow might be not active at a point when this orders are happening. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to deactivate. I'm not going to delete subscription. I'm just going to deactivate it. So now flow is deactivated. Now if I go back into the Fusion application and create a new work order, let's quickly fill in the details for the new work order. Okay, I've filled in the information. I've selected the same resource with the next slot. Now let's click on save and continue. Now as I click on save and continue, this time this particular event, even though it will go out from the Fusion service, but it will not reach to OIC because flow is down. So let's wait for some time, and then we can go back on the OIC and look at the event information on our observability tab. Okay, here we are. This is the same connection. Now if I go in over here, I can see work order create event. One integration is subscribed to it, one was delivered, which we already saw, and one is still queued. If I want to see more details about it, I can go into this experience. I can need to just select what kind of status I'm interested into. As I click on the right status, I'll be able to see the details of that particular event over here. Now I can also see which is the subscriber, which flow it is, and what time it has come up. And probably it has not reached out because the OIC flow is down. There is nobody to handle it. So that's why it is in the queue. So let's go back onto our project and quickly enable the integration back. Now that I've activated the integration, it will be automatically picked up, not that we have to resubmit or anything like that. Once flow is activated, the Fusion application event handling framework has a auto retrial feature, so it will automatically retry, and once it retries, we'll be able to see through the observability that another flow has executed, and it will show up in some time. And also through the observability and Fusion application, we'll be able to see that this particular event has moved from queue to delivered. For now, it has not yet. It will take some time. Generally takes around 15 minutes, but it will. Okay, now we can see that the event has been processed. Now that the event has moved from the queue to the delivery, we can go back to the project and we can quickly see that the event has been picked up by the flow. So if I go back into the project, go into the observability, I can see that the flow has executed successfully and the new event has come. Now if I go back to the Fusion field service application, here if I select the user for which I was assigning these tasks, I would be able to see that both of them have been successfully assigned to the resource on the field service side. So this concludes the demo. We saw how Fusion application monitoring helps the customers who are using the ERP Cloud and CX Sales B2B application adapter for kicking off the integration flows based on events. It helps them to self-troubleshoot the event-related issues, improves the overall integration experience with the Fusion application.
Welcome now to Module 10, Integration Solution Examples. In this module, you'll find a collection of videos that demonstrate use case solutions involving one or more OIC adapters to various external systems or applications. Our goal for these demos is to provide enough examples so you can start to better understand how solutions can be built, as well as highlighting certain pre-built solutions that you can use out of the box or customize further as required. And once you complete these videos, don't forget to take the Module 10 skill check. Keep going strong. Welcome. In this video, I'll demonstrate how to create an OIC integration that leverages a business event from a Fusion SaaS application as the trigger. For this scenario, let's consider that something happens in your enterprise application. For example, a new item is added to your catalog in your enterprise resource planning system. We call this an event, and perhaps you want to try to find out about this event so you can take some action, such as adding this item to your customer-facing web store. One way to accomplish this is to continually poll the application with your integration, then update the store when the event is detected. The problem with this approach is that you need to expend resources to keep polling, and then you will likely not find out about the event immediately. A better approach is for you to create the integration with a trigger that subscribes to that business event, so that when the item is added, the ERP system will notify OIC to start the integration instance. There you provide the data mapping and logic to update the online store immediately. To illustrate this, we are going to use Oracle ERP Cloud and Shopify. Oracle ERP will be our system of record for products in our catalog. And whenever a new product item is added to Oracle ERP, OIC will receive the event. Then the product will be added to Shopify so that our customers can begin ordering the product. I'll now get started building the solution. I'll start out with a project named Oracle ERP to Shopify. Using projects is a best practice to keep your integrations organized. And as you can see here, this one is empty. So we're doing this demo end to end from scratch. First, before we create the integration, I'll need to create the connections. I'll start with Shopify. I'll name this connection My Store, and for this demo, it will only be used in the Invoke role. I'll also add a meaningful description for this connection and click Create. For the connection properties, I need to provide the host name for My Store and specify which Shopify REST API version to use. Notice optionally I could also add related Shopify connection IDs. For the security configuration, I'm using the Shopify access token policy. Since I have already generated an admin API access token from my Shopify store, I'll paste that here. Then under optional security, I'll paste in the API secret key that I also copied earlier. And now to test the connection. Okay, that tests it successfully. Incidentally, learning how to create and use various adapter connections is fairly easy. In this case, within the Help Center online, I click on the adapters documentation page, then scroll down to look for Shopify. There it is. On that page, you'll find everything you need to learn about capabilities, prerequisites, how to create and configure the adapter connection, and even how to use it in an integration. Okay, I'll now go back and save this configuration. All done. Let's exit to return to our project design page, and here's our new connection. Now I'll create a second connection, this time using the Oracle ERP Cloud adapter. In this demo, I'll be using it both as a trigger and in the Invoke role. And I'll add a description and click Create. There is just one configuration property. I simply need to provide the URL for the ERP Cloud host. I'll use the username password token security policy providing that information here, and click Test to validate the URL and those credentials. Now, while I'm waiting for the test, notice again on the adapters documentation page, it's easy to locate Oracle ERP Cloud. And of course, when you click that link, you're able to learn about the capabilities for the ERP adapter, the prerequisites for creating a connection, as well as how to use the connection in an integration, either in the trigger or invoke role. Okay, now that our connection has tested successfully, I'll save the configuration. And now that it's saved, we'll exit to the project page. And here see that both connections are shown as the configured status. Now it's time to create our new integration. I'll choose the application pattern, and we'll name it Create New Shopify Product, and add a meaningful description. Notice I could also choose to make this integration visible to other projects. We'll keep it private, and I click Create. It's now time to configure the trigger, and of course, we only have our ERP connection to choose from. I'll call this endpoint receive item event, and add a description indicating that we intend to register for the item create event in the ERP cloud. Now on to the configure request pane. I first choose the receive business events option and then filter down for the item create event. Notice that I could create a filter expression to limit the specific new items. Just click continue, review, and then click finish. This takes just a moment to update. With the trigger now completed, the next thing to do is to go ahead and indicate a business identifier for this integration. In this case, I can see that the find item response returns an item ID. So we'll use that. To save, I just click on the design canvas outside of the pane. Next, I need to invoke the ERP cloud to retrieve the attachment, which contains the image for that new item. I'll call this endpoint getItemAttachment, and the description indicates why we're making this call. On the next pane, I select the Query, Create, Update, or Delete Information option. Let's first browse for services. Then I'll search for and select the ERP integration service. Now I need to choose the Get Document for Document ID operation. And that looks good. Click on Continue. And I click Finish. Notice that a new map action has been added to the flow immediately preceding our new invoke action. Let's edit with the map editor. For this operation, we'll need to obtain the document ID for the new item, which has been provided in that new item event payload in a field called DM version number. So might not find it right away, so instead I'll search for that DM version number field. There it is. Now I just drag and drop that onto the target to complete the mapping. I'll now click Validate and then exit the map editor to return to the design canvas. I'll now click Save to save the integration, save the work that I've done so far. Now that we have all the information we need, it's time to create an invoke to our Shopify connection. I'll call this endpoint create new product and provide a description. When I click Continue, I can now select the Create option. I first select the appropriate Shopify module, in this case it's products, and then I click on the product object, then finally the create a new product operation. My summary page looks correct, so I click Finish. All right, bear with me now. I'll just change this to a vertical layout. Now let's edit the mapping for this call to Shopify. As you can see here in the target area, there are various fields we could populate into the product object, which can be mapped from various fields of the find item response. Now, while we could map lots of data, such as item price or other information, in this demo, instead of going through all those different mappings just for expediency purposes, I'll just map over the item number field, which actually serves as the Shopify title. So let me search for that. There it is. And we'll map that to the product title, as well as the item description, which will go into this location. Now, in order to get the image for the item, I'll need to expand the result for the get item attachment, and then I need to map the content to the images attachment field. So I'll expand that. There it is. So content to attachment in Shopify. I'll click Validate to ensure there are no other areas, or no other errors, I should say. Then exit the map editor to return to the design canvas. Once again, I'll click Save to save our work on the integration. And now that I'm done, I'll exit the design canvas to return to the project design page. Let's now activate our integration. And since we're going to be testing and may need to troubleshoot, I'll select the debug tracing level, then activate. I can see here that the status indicates that the activation is in progress. Eventually, when I click the refresh icon, I can now see that it is active, which means the event subscription has been registered with ERP Cloud. Now, before I test this, let's take a look at my store in Shopify, where I can see that I currently have only 3 products. Later on, we'll expect to see a new product here on this page. Heading over to ERP Cloud, I'm now on the product information page. And so I'll head over here and click on Create Item. I'll select an organization and an appropriate item template and click OK. The new unique item value is a youth basketball. And since we're mapping the description, I'll add that as well. I also need to indicate an active status and place this into production. I'll now add a nice image for our basketball. And I'll indicate each as our unit of measure. And now I click Save, which will not only add the item, but it will cause that item created event to soon be sent to our OIC integration. Okay, now it's time to monitor our integration instance. So I'll click over here on the project page over to the Observe pane, then click on Instances. So far I can see that there are none, which means that this event has not yet arrived. However, later on, when I click Refresh, I can now see that we have a completed instance. Here's the item ID we captured as our business identifier, which I can now click on, and of course, if necessary, I can drill down into the activity stream to do any debugging as needed. In this case, I can see that all of the icons are green, which means everything succeeded with no errors. I'll exit back to the Observe page. And now let's head over to Shopify, where of course I can see that there are now 4 products, including that new youth basketball, along with its corresponding image. And that completes this demo, where we created a solution from scratch to include creating the connections and then configuring the ERP connection as a trigger to our integration. Thanks for watching.
Welcome to the ChatGPT to Slack pre-built solution demo. In this demo, we will show you how one can interact with ChatGPT using Oracle integration. So first of all, before we get into more details, this pre-built solution is bundled in OIC project. As you can see over here, all the artifacts are available for you in the OIC project on the one canvas. So you don't have to switch again and again between the integrations, between the canvas, or between the lookup or JavaScript libraries. Additionally, this pre-built solution is built on Rapid Adapter Builder based ChatGPT adapter. We'll look more into it in the demo. What we have done is we have used the ChatGPT APIs and rapidly built an adapter on top of it using our RAP framework. And using this pre-built solution, we'll talk about more about use case in a moment. We have created a contextual experience. And last but not the least, this also demonstrates how one could use the webhooks in OIC. So with that, let's quickly talk about the real functional use case. So in this particular use case, we'll see how a user asks any query on the Slack, and as that query is received on the Slack, a webhook is invoked, which invokes the OIC flow. And as a webhook is received the information, it invokes an flow 2, which is basically the real engine for carrying out the use case. In flow 2, what we are doing is we are invoking the generate API of ChatGPT, and as we receive the response of the generate API, we are responding back to the Slack thread user the response. So this is where we are talking about providing a contextual experience. Now, let's quickly look at the solution live on the Slack. Okay, so for demo, here we are in the Slack. So in Slack, what we have done is we have created a dedicated channel and we have created a bot. So what we are going to do, we are going to use this bot to invoke the webhook, which will reach to OIC and will pass on the query, whatever we are asking, to OIC, and OIC in turn will pass on the query to the ChatGPT. And as we get the response from the ChatGPT, we will get it back over here. So let's quickly ask ChatGPT, what is Oracle Integration Cloud?